let's officially start. Welcome to the December 3rd, 2025 Master Plan Subcommittee meeting. We had a little snafu with getting things up and running, as I haven't done that in a while. And thank you, Naomi, for seeing me through that. So what we have here is, this is the vision statement from the 2005.
Okay, got it.
So if I wanted to have a kind of a model, because when you go through this, in the first Chapter 3 of the master plan, the one that was done in 2005, has a vision and vision statements, goals, and objectives. So what I thought we would kind of model things after, at least start to develop these type of things based upon the information we've received in the survey. In that section, where's my other page? At the end of the book, in the appendix, there's a summary of overall findings for each section.
Okay.
So I thought that would be a tool for us to begin to decipher.
Using the former summaries.
Reflecting on the former summaries, but then also addressing our own summaries.
Right.
So this would then be a tool for us to say, okay, this is what was said then. Are we seeing the same things, and do we need to rephrase something, or all this is totally new?
Yeah, well, just sort of quickly glancing over this, there does seem to be a good amount of overlap.
Yes. And so I don't know how far along you got in looking at the various things. And did I hand out copies last 2 times ago of everything?
The only thing I think I'm missing is the surveys that were handwritten.
Okay.
I don't have that, but
Yeah, you don't have that. I don't have that yet either.
I did go over the survey responses in its entirety. Really enjoyed looking at all the extra, write-in sections, just
Right.
really people's opinions. I thought that was pretty helpful.
I know where I'm.
Did you have a chance to run those SurveyMonkey analytics?
Yes, I thought I emailed those to you.
If you did, I missed it.
So this is the themes that come from the language used of those. So like question 21 that you have there is looking like this, because it's dealing with transportation. So the overall concern, road maintenance and damage, then transportation information access, and then it drops off from there. It's not like those aren't important things, but the top 5 seem to be spot on to what the comments were, at least when I read through 21.
Okay, yeah.
But you should have gotten that in a zip file for the.
That was last month?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, then, yeah, I missed that one.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So I'll be sure to send that again, but I'm pretty sure it's in the zip file that was attached to that meeting reminder, as well as all of those again, and the overall master plan, which you've already, the questionnaire, which you've already gone through, right? Okay. So how would you like to proceed? We're gonna just start with question 17 and go that way, or do you want to address, let's make some observations of what you saw, and we'll just start in that section. So that first section is dealing with our profile.
17, yeah. Yeah, we can start there, or we can start with all the way at the end, the best, worst, and visions.
Yep.
Either or.
Well, I was thinking around those same lines, because there's a lot more information there, as far as what's being said. I'm not sure how, because I didn't look at this part that as closely as looking at the questions or responses. So that begins with question 46, I think.
Yeah, and that's what's most fresh in my mind from.
Okay. Yeah, so that's visions, goals, and objectives. And then the last, so it's basically question,
46 is the best
46.
thing, 47 the worst thing, and then 48 is the vision.
okay. So if we jump to this, then. All right.
Right, so out of 309, okay, out of 315 responses, it applied themes to 309 of them, so pretty much all of them. Overwhelmingly, people enjoy the rural, character preservation, rural living. That's the top 25%, and community cohesion, small town. Yeah, even like the first 10 themes are basically, we live in the country, it's rural, and,
Right.
and we like that.
Right.
And then,
Which are all, I mean, these are all, as far as character is concerned, we got, that's down here.
yeah, for some of these like smaller percentages, it's almost like it's not really getting the essence of the response. Like if I just had to
Right.
guess, like
Yes,
it's,
yes, yes.
okay, yeah, urban
Yeah, I
proximity,
agree,
it's like
yeah.
we don't have urban proximity, so
Well, we do.
we do.
So when I was reading through the transportation one,
Yeah.
there were some who were saying, wish we had a big store in town so we didn't have to drive as far. And then others who are used to driving, it's only 30 minutes to Concord, 20 minutes to, or 30 minutes to Manchester, and then it's
Yeah.
only an hour and a half to Boston. So there's a different mindset that's being described, because they're used to commuting. And that's what they expect. You know, when I lived in Glen, I lived across the street from Red Parker Pub. On a weekend, it took me 45 minutes to go a 20-minute ride to North Conway because of tourists, and it was even worse during leaf peeping.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even getting to the north-south bypass road, because that's that Hurricane Mountain Road that goes down behind everything instead of going down Main Street. Or even if you went around West Side to come around to the other end, it would still be the same, if not longer. So, you know, there's a contextual example of
Yeah, of course.
what we become used to.
Yeah, well,
So let's just take this rural character as a preservation, right? So that's number 2. We're going to mount. So that seems to be, if we go to,
Overwhelming throughout all the comments, it's just,
well, that's from beginning, even back to question 17, just on doing.
yeah.
So if we go to question 47, we have the contrast of what's negative. And the
A
negative.
little more diverse in
Right.
this area.
Yeah, it looks like it's all over the.
Yeah, like initial impressions, it was just, a lot of people thought it's unfortunate that there's growth in town. Some people have gripes with town government, but then just a little bit of everything. Lack of amenities,
Right. Which is,
too much shooting, too much,
but so, there's the tension we're in.
right,
Because one of the things I wrote here before we got started is rural character, vibe is something that's been saying. What's the definition of that? So how is adding sidewalks keeping our rural character? And they're asking, we'd like to have a sidewalk that goes from like Center Road all the way down to Duck Pond. So how does that work within our planning when it's a state highway?
well, that's,
You know?
I don't know, but, I mean, just for that specific example, I mean, I do think like a lot of people who enjoy the rural character and where also would enjoy some sort of community
Right.
center, and a sidewalk could facilitate that, just
Right.
as an example.
Right.
So, yeah, let me look at this, synopsis for the negatives.
Yep, the worst. This traffic safety and noise comes up under transportation all through the individual responses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the synopsis is actually pretty helpful for this question in particular. Just sort of
I don't know if it
putting it in order, really.
doesn't. Yeah, all these are concerns, tax issues, transportation, infrastructure maintenance, food, retail, operations. And to be honest, when I read through some of the things about government operations, it's like people are expecting every little detail of what happens to be told them the day it happens, without being asked if they care that it happened. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So there are people sitting, waiting to be told instead of actively engaging. So that's where I look at the distinction, is people aren't actively engaging.
Yeah, yeah, for that particular point about, government, town government, for the other section, maybe it was the facilities section,
Yeah.
my main note there was actually communication from the town. A lot of people were saying good things about Where in the World, the newsletter. And it sounded like the workaround would be just more attention into the town website and just making sure we're up to date with
Right.
that. People enjoy that conversations such as these are live streamed on YouTube.
So
Yeah.
one of those things that information, email, sign up, encourage that. town meeting, newspaper ad was something I suggested. But, you just said something that clicked. Now I've forgotten what it was.
I mentioned where in the world and just keeping our website up to date.
Right. Yeah. Just as we've talked about this process, I think we could suggest that there be a information gathering, a means, here's how you stay connected, and put that in as something that's mailed out to everybody. As well as post it on the website, as well as put it on the Facebook page, as well as put it on some of these other Facebook pages that everybody's populating.
Right.
To give that, here's the means, if you want to be connected with what's going on, here are the primary ways. Because even within house committees, unless you're wanting to spend the time, you're just interested in what committee you're on.
Right.
Whereas you probably should, if you want to be more aware, click on everything and receive every email and receive every notification, as a means to be even more educated of what's going on.
Yeah. So I guess, we're talking about just people generally are complaining about, or not complaining, just identify the government as a weak point in town, but the solutions are already sort of there.
Yeah.
They just could be.
Right, they just need to be facilitated better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in terms of the taxation, a lot of people identify that taxes are high and that a lot of revenue goes to the schools, and a lot of people aren't happy with the schools. That would be my synopsis of taxation issues. Actually, Bill, maybe you could help shed some light on this for me. New Hampshire as a state without income tax. Just explain very, very briefly this conception that bringing business into town brings in revenue into town. Is that just through the property tax of those businesses, or am I missing something here?
So the commercial gets taxed differently.
Oh, that's what I'm missing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So as an example, you've got in Henniker, I mean, their taxes are higher than ours, and they do have a better revenue base because they have got Pat's Peak, they've got the college. All those things contribute to that tax base. So when you compare apples to apples, the last I knew, when your child played sports in Henniker, you didn't pay anything. Back when I was directing basketball, they didn't pay anything. It was paid by the town. Whereas here, it's like, even now, it's like $100 to play basketball or any sport, and you get a uniform, et cetera, that you keep. But that's not revenue that's generated from taxes. That's all through volunteer operations and parents paying. So when we look at two different communities, why do they this? Well, that's because they have a bigger tax base than we do. So our commercial zones are where we get a little bit more, but we have very few commercial zones that have active industry. They're retail, the very few, other than the commercial, actually, it's industrial at B&B Lane. And that's maybe 10 companies tops. So I
guess, I was just
So-
curious about which sort of businesses do bring in revenue, which don't. I guess that sort of clarifies it a bit
Right.
for me.
So I took upon myself to look at this, because this is on our webpage, on the tax issue. And yes, our schools, 2014 was the highest proportion. Now it's only 14. It was almost 18, 1721. County portion is part of that state fee, and this is all per thousand. So when you look at the county fee, it's pretty much stable. The town fee has gone up and down, and it's about $4, period, over a 20 I mean, a 10-year period. So what's changed? Our school has gone down, well, it's probably because they paid off the debt that was due when they built the new school in 1986. They probably had a bond, so that's what dropped that. At John Stark.
Okay.
So it's gone up a little bit because of probably cost of living, et cetera. Because we're spending more money, it's obvious, based upon additional research I did, our school system is not well-known. Okay, it's well-known to be subpar,
Okay.
not above par. So when people talk about in recent days, well, in the last 5 years, our taxes have doubled. Okay, so if we go back to 2019, 23 to 20, the tax rate's gone down. So what's changed?
Well,
The
that was
assessed
the assessed
value,
That's
right? So the assessed value has nothing to do with town government. It has to do with the market.
This is fascinating.
So I imagine in the time you've owned your property, things have changed as far as what you're paying for taxes.
Yeah, just it seems that we incrementally go up. Seems actually like a linear increase of.
Right. But all the
every year.
while, everything else is pretty much staying flat, except for the school going up a little bit. And we still have that same type of thing when we go back to what we were paying before this, with all the way back to 1994. Town was $395 then. School was probably a little higher because we're still dealing with that debt for the high school. And so when you look at these numbers, they're pretty close to staying the same all the way through, except there's a period in the mid-2000s that things dropped down for the totals, dropped down under $20 for this section from 2006 to, that was 4 years. I don't recall what changed in those 4 years, why things dropped, but the school component dropped sizably, as well as the towns. So I don't know what happened to there, other than what could have happened is that we had a spending freeze in that period of time, because I think we had a building freeze shortly after the 2005 acceptance of the master plan.
Right. Okay.
So we were trying to corral things, because when you read through that master plan, their forecast for 2020 was 12,000 people. We haven't gone above 10,000 yet.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's the component that, everybody, when you go to sell, and you pay $1.50 for your property, and you can sell it for $5, what are you gonna do? Either you're gonna sit on it, because you can't buy something else for $5, and that's where we're at right now. Someone may have a house they bought for $2.25, and they can turn around and sell it for $5.50 easily, right? But they're not gonna do it because there's nothing out there they can afford for $5.50 that's of equal value to what they have.
Right.
So everything, the cost of everything has gone up. Whether we blame it on COVID, whether we blame it on mismanagement of government, the reality is everything's gone up. Milk is more expensive, eggs are more expensive. Even though some of those things have come down, the promises that everybody's made about gas as an illustration, depends upon where you are in the country. The place that's the furthest away from the depot has the cheapest gas.
Yeah.
So gas has to do with sale of volume. So you go to the 3 stations in town, and you're gonna get 3 different prices. You're gonna go to the cheapest one down at Langtot's, and it gets cheaper if you have their card, or you get 10 cents off at the Exxon if you have their card. I imagine Sunoco has a deal like that too, right? So it tells you that they're still looking for market share of encouraging people to buy their product, because they're willing to give you a discount on so many gallons of gas, or whatever it is, 10 cents a gallon type of
Yeah.
thing.
It pays for them to have loyal customers.
Right. But when I was hearing all this, my taxes have quadrupled since, okay, there's a reason for that, and it's called inflation, and it's called your value of your property assessment has gone up. And that is market. I don't think that's something that the selectmen or anybody here says, no, we have to cut it
Yeah.
down.
Well, I mean, we need to raise the amount of taxes we have to raise because the budget is what it is. Like, we need to pay
Right.
as a town for, so I guess high taxes is a proxy for we're paying for too much stuff.
Could be looking at it that way, or that, like with the CIP,
Well, I mean, otherwise the town is bringing in a surplus, which we're
which we're
not
not.
supposed to,
Yeah, right.
yeah,
We shouldn't be. We should be
balanced budget.
balanced budget. We shouldn't be in debt. We shouldn't be overspending, income shouldn't be too much higher than our budget. But if you turn, a couple, there was something else I read. The budget, the school budget didn't get passed, so it went to the default budget. Well, the default budget was more than the proposed budget.
No.
Yeah. So what are you doing? You're either making a decision by your gut when you get into the voting booth and say, no, I don't want to vote for that this year, without being educated, or that you're educated and you're not paying attention to the full picture. So that's the hard part about, okay, so we're looking at wanting to maintain our rural character, that's obviously there. I think this first one, well-governed and organized town with positive leadership, active volunteers, a strong commitment to public service, is another goal that still needs to be there, part of the vision, right? Number 3 even applies as far as positive manageable growth, so that we're not going beyond, throwing up developments every single place we can, to go buy Craig's property behind your house, and we're gonna put a subdivision in there.
That would,
You'd love that in your backyard, right?
would not enjoy that very much.
No.
But,
But then when it's in a place like there's a place on River Road down in South Ware that has been sitting naked for a while, and now all the underbrush is growing back up, and they have a plan to put a 18-unit cluster development in there. That's well-designed, not gaudy, and it's in the woods. You don't see it, per se. You'll know it's there because someone will, put a sign up such and such, like Cortland Estates. Well, Cortland Estates is very visible. Holly Hill, somewhat visible, but the old farmhouse is still right out front, so you're not confronted with all the new development,
that.
Rolling Hill is another example where you don't really see a house until you're a quarter mile in, So there's things that take place, or even over here on Duck Pond Estates. Yeah, you can see one house as you look down the road, but there's no houses right on 114. So it's like a hidden gem, so to speak, but it's giving still that country feel where we're not lining the main street with more housing.
So, stuff like that, where I'd say the vast majority of people who took the survey would agree that if there was a development, it should be aesthetic, it should be, take
Right.
up a smaller footprint. So I guess that would be something we should try to articulate in our statement, that, for example, development is not really desired, but when it happens, as it will happen from time to time, we should add some parameters.
Right. So when you look at this section, you find that it takes these big bullet things, and then housing, what are the goals? And then it has objectives under housing. So that's where we start to develop the phase, the section where we get to, where'd it go? We get to this. So this is the appendix part, which should be the main, but these are page 267 through 296 in the master plan. But this gives you, who's responsible for these things, and have these things been implemented, So even though then, rural character, one of the things under economic development was develop a site plan review procedure for commercial and big box development before this becomes an issue,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing that we have, the planning board has tried to look at as an example to get ahead of it, short-term rentals, so that they are managed well as opposed to prohibited. So those types of things we're looking ahead to try to manage, or like one of the things that we're bringing up, potential for zoning amendment, is a definition that we don't have of a junkyard. And then how does that apply to you having 5 vehicles unregistered sitting in your driveway in a variety of disrepair or on, dismantling? How does that, so depending on where you come from, well, that's rural New Hampshire, right? That's what you expect in that setting, right? Depends upon what you define as rural character.
That's a fair,
Right?
fair, yep.
Whereas, coming down by your house, all right, so now you've expanded your grapevines, you've expanded your fruit trees out front, right? That's different than it was when I worked on that property, because we put a whole new lawn in that place where you put all your fruit trees. But there's a different means by which you're using your property to your betterment, but also to be conscientious of your neighborhood, because across the street, if I think I get your house right, yours is in the ground, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the one across the street, not directly across from you, but the one up here on the right, used to be a big
Yeah, they had
greenhouses, right? And they died off or went into home or whatever, and that changed the whole flavor of what the property is gonna be used for. It's sad, but, those types of changes take place. So when I started looking at, where is it? The survey itself, there are these categories at the end that deal with the last question of ranking, right? So these would be those big bullets that we would address under our vision statement. Under this would be transportation, community facilities, community resources, land use, growth management, natural resources, open space, cultural resources, economic, housing, zoning, vision. Vision, goals, and objectives would be not something, these would be all identified up here.
Sorry, say that one more time. For the vision statement.
So when you go from this to this is the overview vision. Now here are the goals and objectives. Goals and objectives are reflected in every category: historical and cultural resources, housing. So we'd want to develop a goal and objective for that. So there's the clarification of the thing you talked about earlier. This is good, but what does this mean?
Goals and objectives per section of the survey.
Correct.
Okay.
Because that's how this is developed. This is all developed from the original survey.
And goals and objectives will be part of this committee's synopsis.
Right.
Right. Okay.
So then, we would submit that as well as this part concerning goals and objectives. Then we have regional, this is the implementation. These would be our suggestions to the planning board, which they could agree or disagree on.
Okay,
Okay, so we want to do our vision statement, then goals and objectives for each of these categories, based upon what we see it's reported, and then what we see when it's talking about vision, goal, and objectives in the last several questions. And then we would go from the goals and objectives, then those things would then fill out, what are the actionables? What are our recommendations for the planning board to adopt? Which probably at that point in time, we would want to get their input anyways.
actionable suggestions also a part of this exercise, you're saying?
That's what was done in the last time. Okay, so that's why I keep arguing that these 4 pages of the master plan, everything else is just information that supports us.
Right, yeah, it's almost like if we don't have an actionables section of this report, there needs to be another commission to create it.
Correct, right.
So, guess this is our
So-
chance to do
So,
it.
I think what we would want to do then is if we go with our vision statement or statements is our first section. Well, I thought that we should have an introduction, which is something that would come before that, explaining what has happened and where we're going with this. So then after vision, we would have goals and objectives, which for each category represented 1 through 11 that we asked about. So it'd be goals and objectives. So section 2. Section 3 then would be our, what do we call it, implementation? Let's call it that, implementation. How are we gonna put that to work? Those things. And then 4 would be a demographic report. And then 5 would be the survey results. Which we could just put this whole,
The demographics,
this-
pulling
this-
from the survey, pulling from other sources.
other sources.
Yeah.
So, because the survey is not gonna give us a clear, this is only
Right, yeah,
by who-
I remember,
by
yeah.
who's filled it up.
Just,
So I would say something to the effect of the New Hampshire Employment Security. So this is like, gives you all the details of how many people, what age groups, genders, proximity to different things, how the government works. All that type of stuff would be as far as our community profile. And that's a tool that's already available to us. We don't have to reinvent that, that's.
I
and that-
imagine this, is this up to date from the 2020 census?
No, this is an old one, so this is.
Or like, whatever the
Yes,
most
yes,
recent
yes,
resources are.
yes. And they put out a new one every month.
Okay, so yeah, so that makes sense to use.
So then the survey
Uh,
results would be section 5, which could be this whole thing. Because when we looked at other towns, when they put their master plan, they put all this information out there.
Right.
We wouldn't give the answers to questions like 17, because it's it's personal information that's given, so we could probably just say that, 126 answered, 333 skipped it.
Well, nothing personal is revealed in these answers. It's just,
And only if we report that part of it. Well, you're right. You're right. That information is just information. We can add that for every time there's another question. Here's the answers to question 17, so that,
yeah, I mean, for me, these write-in responses are the bread and butter of the survey. And just for my notes here, the demographics, what is that agency that puts that
it's
together?
called the New Hampshire Employment Security.
Employment Security?
Yep.
All right.
So this is 2023, I think this is the last one. Well, the only one I have present with me. But you could easily, it's nhes.nh.gov, and you can look up whatever town you want to look up. Usually it gives you the... Yeah, so when we were in 2000, we were talking about 7,800 people, and in this report, they were anticipating 12,000 people, and we're only at 9, well, in 2023, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, we were only at a little over 9,000 people.
So we're definitely at 12 now.
No, we're still under 12. We're still under 10.
We'll look at the most recent data.
All right.
No, I'm just playing. It feels like there's 10,000 people on my street, but
Well, see, so that's one of the other things for, when I start to think about transportation. People think that most of the traffic is because of people who live here. And most of the traffic is people either going to work or traveling through to go to work.
yeah, correct. And you have like a great actually response to each of the issues people are taking with where. But that doesn't mean the issue doesn't exist, though.
No,
I mean-
I'm not saying the issue doesn't exist, but
Yeah.
what we think, the reasoning why.
Yeah.
So if you live in North Ware, Concord Stage gets hit every morning from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And it's not just people from Ware, it's people from Deering who don't want to go all the way up to 202.
Yeah, this is actually an excellent point. I wonder myself, like intersection of 77 and 114 at the wrong hour. You're waiting right near
Yeah.
your church for,
Yeah.
like, I'm waiting to go, and I'm like, there's no way all these people live here.
Yeah.
So, but it's our
Well,
adjacent towns
Right.
that are also
Or-
growing.
Or even when school gets out.
Yeah, that's.
When school gets
yeah.
out, I can't get out of my driveway.
Mhm.
Because all those teenagers, they don't care who's waiting to get on the road, they're just driving home. And when they cut that corner up by my church, they're going 40 miles an hour at times. Or even, my office is right there on the road. So I'm sitting there and I hear this truck, jack braking because he forgot he had to slow down,
Yep.
you know? So that's kind of where I think these 5 things are then,
Yeah, I guess it doesn't really change what the synopsis of the survey is, but it does, your points are gonna be very helpful for the implementation phase of
right.
how we address these issues people have, when we do get there. So I guess, so now that we have a structure of this report, what do you want to accomplish today?
Well, I think we've got a good foundation to run off of now. So if we just want to tackle things between now and the next meeting, to take, all right, you have your assessment of every section, right?
Assessment?
So,
Like my own personal
correct.
notes, yeah.
So maybe put that in a summary statement. And I'll do the same. And then we'll see what impression we got to then put together to say, right on, or, I missed that, type of thing, you know what I mean?
So your idea would be to, you, me, Salem, we each do this exercise.
Right,
And then just compare these.
right.
Summaries.
And then start putting those summaries together to flesh out what are the statements, whether we're keeping those statements, or we're revamping, or eliminating, or writing something different
Okay.
for vision statement, because everything else comes off of that. If we don't have a vision statement about what the overall picture is, then we don't have any direction. And the only way we can discern that is decipher it from those personal responses, but also what's the other information that's being presented with the bigger document as far as the survey questions? What is the overwhelming? So we know for all practical purposes, the component concerning the demographic, or concerning who the people are. That's not the word I'm looking for. The profile. The person who's, the profile is someone's filling it out. That's only gonna give us a taste of who's filling it out, right? So we know that when we start to look at question 13, there are some statements made. Well, how do we know that these people aren't multiplying, sending this in several times, or maybe they're not residents? Well, when we start to diffuse that, we look at, well, the survey was put on our website, the survey was put in the text, and there were comments on question 13, thank you, the tax bill was a perfect way to make this happen, right?
Sure.
But we also know that it's gonna give us a understanding of, all right, so there wasn't a lot of people out of town filling this out.
No,
And the other thing is that in order to fill this out multiple times, you have to get a new IP address.
Yeah,
every single time.
That's probably true.
I know it to be true, because we tried to do that at the.
Okay,
at
so
the-
it's definitely true.
At the old age, the
It's-
senior center.
This concern came up a couple of times. But I'm not sure it's a,
Oh, I think it's an awareness issue.
yeah.
I don't think it's something we need to say, well, I guess we have to start all over. I don't think we need to do that, because we've got twice as many responses to this than we did the first time.
Yeah, I'm also, it'd be silly, just some person in Florida taking our survey for,
Well,
Yeah.
there was a person that said that
who's
they.
non-affiliated with Ware.
Right, but they own property in Ware, but they don't live here.
Yeah, well, then
they-
that is a valid
And-
response.
And there's
That
a
is-
response to that,
Yeah.
right? And so they're paying taxes. I mean, that's where, you don't have to live here to warrant being on this, because you're a taxpayer. How the money's spent is important to you, whether you live here or not.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone's disputing that type of,
So this profile is just gonna give us an understanding to summarize, to say, this is the type of person who was filled out.
where do you envision capturing this profile in our report?
That's a good question.
If you do envision it at all, I mean, it's not a given that it goes in there.
No, I think the information should be there, as far as down here in the survey results, and the write-in responses So that question 13 has,
I mean, it's very, very
17.
quickly summarized as most survey takers were
yes,
40 to 75 and
Yep.
live here in a single-family home and are married. It's just,
Right.
that's the bulk of it, so.
so if that's the case, that goes in the introduction. Do you know what I mean?
Introduction stating that,
So
survey
we-
out of a population of X, we have this type of person took the survey and. But I would only add it if we're trying to say it's representative or it's not representative, or we're gonna extrapolate a certain way because of that.
I don't think we need to make that, I don't think that's gonna have a barometer or bearing on what's the vision is. Other than that age group represents people who want to be engaged.
Yeah, that's the point right there.
So
That's- These are the.
I would keep it in summary fashion and not get that specific. And that we would introduce this report the same way we use the language to, the same way we use this opening statement here. So we would use this same thing, we would eliminate this part, and this section, and then in addition to this, once we get to this part, shape our town's master plan, based upon the survey, these are the response, the general population of what we responded, who responded, and what our goal is to give a cast a vision, not specifically, a vision as to what this is gonna look like in the subsequent pages. So it would act as an introduction. Instead of just giving all back history, we also want to take the back history or the reported history and then cast a vision for that. Do you understand? So it's almost like a preface to a book.
Sure.
So depending upon the book you're reading, sometimes the preface is to build up the topic. Sometimes it's to build up the experience of the author. And sometimes it has nothing to do with either.
Yeah, so we want to give some background, some foreshadowing,
Right.
a good introduction.
Right. So some of that first section of profile can be summarized in that introduction.
Yeah, if it's to be included, why not? Yeah,
I mean, all
there-
that data's, so what's important also is that part of that is to emphasize the issue of data. Okay, so that people understand that this is data given. This is not suggestions set in stone. So out of the data, we discern the action. The information needs to have data to support it. And we're not gonna, because one person said this, doesn't mean we're gonna say, oh, we gotta do that because I know who that person is.
Yeah.
Because this information, I can go to some background by clicking on 27 and give you background on that response. It doesn't tell me who the person is, but it will take me to their response.
But, I mean,
But that doesn't, I don't care about that. I don't think that's gonna help us. That's just gonna make things more complicated, and then we're gonna go on witch hunts looking for people who fit a profile that isn't part of who we are and what we wanna become.
no, we take it as take it all together. There's no picking individual
Right.
ideas out of it, yeah. So individual synopses of each section, we convene again. that's goals and objectives, and then what to do about it really is the bread and butter.
Yeah,
Um,
the implementation. So the language of that, we may not have it. We may have it, but it may not be the proper way to say it. And so that's when we'd want the planning board to come in and say, all right, let's sit down and have a work session on this particular issue.
bringing in the planning board to this phase.
Correct.
Yeah,
So
that
we
could
have
be
that-
very helpful.
So that we have, because we've been stewing over the information. They have all this information as well, but they're not stewing over it. They're not studying it. But they may listen and say, okay, that's a good summary statement, could you add this? Or maybe you should take this out, or maybe that's really not what we should be doing. You know what I mean?
It's interesting, because if you look at the section on zoning, no matter which question we ask, there's a lot of questions we ask, should we increase the lot size, decrease the lot size? We ask the same question multiple times for different specific types, but overwhelmingly the answer is always don't change zoning, don't change anything.
But in some respect, you need to.
In some respects, you need to, but
Because
if you take it verbatim, no
right.
one wants to change the zoning.
Right.
Well, some people, but.
So there's that contrast of rural vibe, character, and sidewalks.
Mhm.
You have that same thing, don't change the zoning, but we want to be sure that our growth is managed.
Yes.
So in order to manage that growth, you have to change the zoning. To give that guidance within the context of that law. And that's the planning board's responsibility, to bring forth those things, not to be implement, but to bring forth them to be implemented by the people. Because zoning doesn't, and planning board can't do anything as far as zoning change until the people sign off on it. We can't sit here and say, well, I think we should have 10-acre lots townwide and nothing smaller than that you can build on. And it doesn't matter what road you're on.
And all
Well,
these changes go, it's
that
warrant
doesn't-
article.
That's, yeah, so it's gonna be a warrant article and people vote on it. Most
Yeah.
likely it would fail because for some people, oh yeah, I don't have to be on a class 6 road, 5 road anymore. I can build whatever I want, wherever I want. So those types of things would come to bear. And then the other part, when you start looking at some of this construction stuff, the people who are building these small developments have done their homework. And it's all permitted use. It's not like they're coming in to get all kinds of variances in order to put these properties in.
Right, so that's where the teeth, the implementation would come in. And I guess that's for a later discussion, but
So is it,
that
so
does
is
seem to
it,
be an important one to have.
Right.
Especially when we talk, there's like one question about, what do we call it, a cap on annual permits, for example, and that's
right.
actually overwhelming support for that.
yep,
So, I mean, that would be like a very easy translation, it's
Right.
the implementation, what is the cap, like what that number is a discussion, of course,
Right.
but.
and then, so along with that line, so if you have a cap, or you have a cap with, you can't build $500,000 homes, or half of $750,000 homes, you need to build homes that are three-bedroom homes that are affordable for new home buyers. We have nothing like that in town, right? So there's
I mean,
an example.
That's because like, the margins are poor for a contractor to build affordable houses.
That's right.
Even if they want to, it's not worth it.
Right.
So hypothetically, just because this is interesting to me, on an implementation, you could have, this is the cap. However, if you were to build this type of house, there's a workaround, so you can keep building, but it's this.
Right.
Not that that's, it seems like we would need to dissect the support for that sort of.
Yeah, I don't think it would, yeah. So as a visual example, if you're going to find yourself on River Road in Bedford, you can go down, at the light at 101 and turn left, and you go up there and you see a certain type of housing. You take the right, you still see a certain type of house, and you take the left to get down to River Road, and all of a sudden, the housing changes. And it's because all this other development was all post-World War II, Korean War housing. As all these GIs came home and wanted, on the GI Bill, can buy their own home. And so they all look very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come to a place where the road stopped, and they started building up from River Road up. And when they made that connection, you come into houses built in the late 70s, 80s, and 90s, and they don't look anything like these other small ranches type of home with an attached garage. Now you have a Garrison, you've got a Colonial, and there's no consistency.
Just sort of an aside that's a little off topic, but in the months since this ADU legislation has passed on the state level, what are you seeing in town in terms of people coming to ask to build certain
So
things?
based upon what we've heard from the land use department, there's been a lot of people asking questions about that. What does that look like? Where, right now, we have a limit of 750 square feet.
Limit or
Already-
maximum?
Maximum. You can build something smaller, but nothing bigger. And right now,
But there's also a minimum,
well,
or I
the way the law goes, the new law, you can't say anything lower than 750, you can't say anything more than 950. But there are some communities, it's 2,000. Okay?
for an accessory dwelling unit?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about the old days when you go to like Manchester by the Sea on the North Shore, I had fellow students living in the carriage house, and the carriage house had a full stall of horse carriages, et cetera, on the first floor.
I guess if my house is 10,000 square feet, I should have a 2,000 square foot guest house.
That's right.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, yeah, that's the image I have.
Yep. But is there like a building bonanza happening, or?
I think there's been a lot of questions. I don't think there's been a building bonanza yet. The thing that's appealing is that now the law, we can't prohibit it, and they can be detached. And it's primarily because the housing market doesn't, it's at the beginning and the end of life. It's a lot of these folks who thought they had all their ducks in a row and they had a somewhat easy retirement plan, and health issues got in the way. So now they need to sell their house in order to pay their health bills. And where are they gonna live?
Sure, or just regular downsizing. The
Right.
kids are out, and you don't need
Yeah.
all these bedrooms. But
Right.
but yeah, that's the market, and
But so those things still, even though it's permitted, you still have building qualifications, setbacks, its own septic. It can't be, a detached can't be piggybacking on the other. It has to be totally separate. If
really?
it's attached, there's other parameters for attached. Like it can't be, you can't put it on the front of your house. The main entrance to it can't be on your front road, your roadside entrance.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I personally haven't seen a lot of tiny structures sprouting up everywhere, so just wondering.
I mean, there's been some additions to present homes when I go around town, saying, oh, look at that. You know, I don't know what it's for or what the goal is, but, and I don't go in and say, what's the deal, what's going on? I don't actively do that type of thing.
Not your department.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could, and, you know, I'd be interested, but I don't think it would benefit me for making decisions that, you know, a lot of the building that's going on in town right now is all well-managed. It's not like it's out of control. And I think we've turned the corner. We've got a good building inspector. We've got a good code enforcement officer, and things are looking up in that department. after a season, a very difficult time. And having nobody.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm eager to get to implementation section, so I guess we ought to,
Yeah.
We gotta
I mean,
bang out
think-
the,
I think when we look at, how do we summarize this, it's, the implementation is just gonna float to the top.
yeah, I mean, it's also like, it's the creative section too.
Right.
Like, what are the solutions?
Right.
But I guess.
Oh,
really
that's a good word to use too. Solutions.
But yeah, no use discussing solutions until we actually have defined, call them goals and objectives, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
just define summaries of each, facet of this survey.
Right. So we're going to do a synopsis of each section for our next meeting. I'll resend those things so that you have them, because I also sent in that last email the word picture,
Okay.
the word cloud, I guess it's called. So that, some of that, I think this is more helpful than the word cloud.
Probably, I
Because
mean,
it was
I'll
only
take a
the
look at
word,
it.
it was only, it wasn't an idea, it was a word. This word is bold and leaping off the page because it's been repeated over and over and over, you know.
I
So
have an idea what it
kinda
might
gives
say already,
It gives
so.
you a guideline, but it doesn't give you an answer.
And,
And what was the other thing we were gonna do?
I think that's what we were gonna do, right?
Yeah,
And then this is sort of, you could call it a rough draft to actually synthesize it into the formal next stage. I guess that's, someone will just naturally have to volunteer and, put it together, and then we'll approve
Yeah,
it somehow.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that's us later.
so when we look at the details of, if we're using these 5 points, introduction included, so that would be 6, but 4 and 5 are already done. The demographic report, it just needs to be printed, and the survey results, we just need to print it. But including the rough individual responses. So the bulk of our work is just our introduction and the first 3 things.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, one of them is the key.
Right.
So I'll be here next month.
Okay,
I will not be here the following
in
month.
February, okay.
But that should be my only absence.
Yeah, I think,
But
away
it's
in
still,
February, so I think, if I recall, I'll have to check the calendar here, because I don't think I'm gonna be here March. The March meeting is when I have my hip replacement that day, so I wouldn't make that meeting.
I think you should put the town first, Bill.
Well. Okay, Phil.
That's what I would do personally. But yeah, but there's a lot we can do in between meetings, even if it's not constituting a meeting. We're not collaborating. There's a lot of
Right.
writing and summarizing and
Right.
brainstorming that can be
Yeah.
done.
And I think when we do our synopsis, it doesn't have to be vast.
No.
It needs to speak to the point.
Yeah, I think brevity will be helpful, in fact.
So if we could say, if we're gonna do that, synopsis in, what is it, January? So January 7th would be no, January,
Should be
yeah,
the-
January 7th would be our next meeting. So if we could have that to each other by the Monday, the 5th, is that enough time to just review it in preparation? Or do we want it earlier than that?
So you're saying, so we'd have 2 days before the meeting to review each other's
Yeah.
work and discuss informed here.
Yes,
Um,
or should it be sooner than that?
I mean, if possible. I mean, it really just depends on the three of us. I know that, yeah, I'll either do this all tomorrow or the day before the next meeting. Like, in between, I won't remember what we discussed.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, that's fine. Just pick a
Well,
date, and
do you-
hopefully we can all stick to it.
So due by 1/4, which would be Sunday.
Yeah,
That work?
yeah, that should be good. Well, I guess we've done what we came here today to
Yep.
do. So,
I thought it was productive. I think, you know, it is a lot of work, but I think we're ahead of the game with I mean, we've got vast information to decipher, but I went through the first 4 or 5 questions this afternoon. It was pretty insightful and helpful. I think those are gonna be good, helpful things to get us going. So we'll conclude at 8:23, or whatever it is.
right, we both agree to adjourn.
Yes.
Very good.
Motion to adjourn. All. Aye.
Aye.